We've made it to the last bottle. Wow. For this last wine, I really wanted to bring it all together and bring us back to this idea. The French cultural victory over the world in wine, and the wine that sort of set the world on fire for fine wines originally was the region of Bordeaux, France, with the grape varieties of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, and what is now generally called the Bordeaux Blend, a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petite Verdot, and sometimes Malbec. So I have with me here a Bordeaux Blend, but it isn't from France. It's actually from Washington State. If you are able to find one from Washington State, more power to you. But I'll take any New World region that is trying to make great Bordeaux. They do it in Chile, Argentina, Australia, South Africa does a really good Bordeaux blend. California does a great Bordeaux blend. So you can look to a lot of different places to find the style of wine. But let's get to it. Open your booklets to the tasting page. And now that we're a pro, having tasted 3 very different red wines, let's take an assessment of the color of this wine. All right, I'm looking right here at the color of this wine, and having seen what I've just seen earlier, this is definitely not garnet, and I would almost say it's in between ruby and purple. Interesting. I can't see through the wine, so it's definitely a deep colored wine, maybe deep purple, deep ruby. Not sure exactly, but I'm going to stick to deep purple for now. Now that's interesting. Now that we know what we know about pH, we can assume this wine might have, what do you know? A little lower acidity, just based on that color alone. Now let's give it a swirl and take a look at the viscosity in this wine. Whoa, look how slowly things are moving and how thick this wine is on the side of the glass. This could be an indication of a higher alcohol level. All right, so there we go. That's the assessment of the look on this wine. Let's lead right into the smell assessment. Turn to the Bordeaux Blend page towards the back of your booklet. Let's give it its initial intensity whiff. What do you think? Was that intense? Medium intense? Low intensity? I'm definitely getting a lot of something coming out of this glass, but I don't know if it's even as high as that first Sauvignon Blanc that we tasted a while back now. I would put this at medium plus intensity. It's definitely got a lot going on, but it's not quite pow. Let's start looking for flavors. At this point, if you want to shut me up for a minute to take some notes on your own, I encourage that. All right, let's run through the flavors we're getting in this wine. On the nose, we're talking fruit flavors. Do you get more black fruit flavors or more red fruit flavors? For me, it's definitely in the black fruit realm. We're talking roasted plums, blueberry pie, black currant, that kind of realm of flavors. Then let's move on because there's a lot more things going on in this glass besides fruit. If you start thinking about floral, herbal, other, and earthy aromas, what do you find in this glass? For me, and what I think is so interesting about this blend are the aromas of spearmint, mint, violet, and green peppercorn that I get coming out of this glass of what would normally be a super fruity wine. Finally, let's get in the oak profile because I smell lots and lots of oak here. Leaning more towards chocolate, but that cheap chocolate like a Tootsie Roll Pop. And then we're getting some of that burnt brown sugar notes, okay? So really sweet baking spice type flavors with real sweet sugary overtones coming from the use of oak barrels. We could guess they're probably using some new oak in this wine because those oak smells are so strong. All right, that's my assessment of flavors in this wine. I hope we have notes that kind of match. Let's run through the taste. Okay, remember with the taste, the first thing we're doing, big swig, swish it around. Is it sweet or is it dry? And then what's the acidity, tannin profile, and how does that finish feel compared to the front? Let's give it a try. Mine's definitely still going. We probably did at least 7 seconds, and then I started counting. So looking like 20 seconds of flavor in my palate right there. Crazy, right? So we entered in this wine, we got this explosion, this burst of juicy fruit up front, and then we start going into the tannin section. We're tasting the tannin in the wine. What do you think about that? Do you get a lot of a tannin, or a little bit of tannin, or like baby bear? Somewhere in between. Then let's talk about that balance on the finish. On the finish, what do you taste? What are the flavors that you get in the finish? Let's take one more sip, see how this wine evolves on the second sip, and take a particular attention to that note on the finish. You feeling what I'm feeling? I'm feeling some alcohol. And I'm also feeling a lot of floral characteristics through the back of my retronasal passage. When I breathe in and out through my nose, I can feel sort of violets, flavors like that coming out on the retronasal in this wine. And also that tingle of alcohol and that oily texture, that creaminess from the malolactic fermentation that definitely happened in this wine, just based on the taste alone. So we now have a complete profile of this wine. We can now think about balance of this wine as a whole and how it sort of evolved from start, middle to finish. And when you back out and you kind of think about it, you're like, wow, that wine was super balanced. Like it had acidity and it had tannin, but they were kind of in balance with one another. It had super fruit on the front, but then it had this sort of like tingly alcohol, but with a little bit of that creaminess on the finish. So now we're talking about a very balanced wine, and it's probably one of the reasons why Bordeaux Blends are so popular today, because when you're looking for that smooth wine, this is one of those wines that hits the ticket perfectly. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure and delight to disseminate some of this information about wine with you and to get into these wines and to talk about taste and flavor. I hope that your palate is especially tuned right now and you're feeling exceptionally sharp right now. I certainly feel that way after tasting these 6 wines. It was an adventure for me. Even though I do taste a lot of wine, I still continue to learn new things every single time I taste wine, which is crazy. But if you had fun, send me a like, send me a message on social media or, something like that. Get it out there that you're into this course and you like it, because we will do more if they are popular. Tell someone you know who loves wine and maybe should know more about it. Get them in, get them a booklet, and let's do this. Finally, if you're curious to know more about wine, and yes, this is a shameless plug, but let me shame myself, and you were interested in hearing about some of those different grapes beyond what we tasted here, this book is loaded. There are 100 different grapes and wines in this book that you ought to try because they're delicious. And what's so fascinating about them, oh look, I opened the Chardonnay page, how perfect. You can look at the bottom of the wine, the page, and it actually has other grape varieties which are recommended for you to try, and then just flip over to that page and learn more about that grape and try that wine. So much fun to learn about wine and to explore. I hope you did this with friends and you guys are all looking around at each other and smiling and laughing, and hopefully laughing a little bit at me, because yes, this is a joy and it is a passion of mine to share with you. So thanks so much for joining in. Until next time.